It's in our bodies. It's in our blood. It makes us taste things better. And it's also in our personalities. A little salty. Getting a little salty tonight. Come along. So I'm Dan.
And I'm Nick, folks.
We're old friends dissecting one topic at a time. People, technology, media, we've got it all covered.
Each discussion here is a deep dive into our unique perspective. The taboo, forbidden subjects, they're all on the chopping block, baby. We don't pander to popular opinion. We might even get a little bit dirty.
Warning, this podcast may contain mature language and sexual content and is for infotainment purposes only.
So join us. Have a good time.
Open up your ear holes, because we're going to fondle your follicles. Welcome back. Ooh.
Damn, don't I love it.
You do. I know you do.
Feels good. Feels so good. Right here. In my heart.
Yeah, it doesn't feel so good right here in my throat.
Oh, sore throat, man.
Yeah, you know what the solution was? You gargle some salt.
Is that true?
Hot water and salt helps a little bit, breaks it up. Nasal drip, whatever's going on down there, flushes it right out.
It dries it up. No, it dries it up.
Is it drying it? I thought it was more like it was.
No, because like mucus is wet and stuff, and I think it binds to it.
It sucks out the moisture from the mucus.
There you
what
go.
You're saying.
Dries it up. Yeah.
Okay.
What I
dries
said.
it up. Yeah.
That's what I said. Today we're going to talk about salt. When Dan texted me that the episode was about salt, I did countless amount of research.
Wow, you did.
I actually did. I got really into this one. Where is it? Came out in 2010.
Oh yeah, Angelina Jolie and
Yeah, correct.
X-Man Professor.
I don't know. How about Oleg Krupa? He was in that. That's a good one.
Maybe that's the guy's name.
Corey Stoll. He was in there. Daniel Obritsky. He was good. Another little girl got her start. She's like 12 years old. I actually didn't write her name down. Then I wrote down the synopsis because, I mean, where are we going to start with this? If we're doing salt, and the whole episode
curved bullets, and that's the whole point, right?
No, that's Wanted.
Oh, that's Wanted. Oh, shite. I researched the wrong movie.
2010. Yeah, well, this is going to be a bad episode. CIA agent goes in on the run after a defector accuses her of being a Russian spy. Now, do you remember?
Yeah. Yeah. I got
6.4 out of 10, I would say, on IMDb.
Yeah.
Is that what it got? Cool.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Above mediocre, I think.
I mean, did you know it was also it got an Oscar for Best Achievement in Sound Mixing, 2011?
Best Achievement in Achievements?
Well,
because that's ridiculous.
It also didn't win. It was a finalist.
Oh, nomination.
But I just wanted to point it out. It was pretty important nomination.
I don't remember the sound in that movie at all.
Who does?
But who never does.
So that was it. We're gonna do salt.
Yeah.
Did we do it?
All right. I think we did it.
Oh no, we forgot. During the chase scene that takes place in New York, in the background you can see a sign that says Silver Cup Studios. That's the name of the production team that made salt.
Oh,
little tidbit for you there.
Yeah. What was that, an Easter egg?
Sprinkled it in like salt. Yeah, it was. It was a good one, right?
Yeah.
So that's all I got.
Oh, good.
Oh, also, it won the Taurus Award in the Stunt Awards, which they have every year. This is in 2011. The Taurus Award is for the best overall stunt by a woman.
The Taurus Award, which is a bull, is the best woman stunt.
It might be related to someone with the last name Taurus. I was thinking maybe like a woman stunter. Shout out women stunters. Did you know Angelina Jolie did almost all of her own stunts for this movie?
I don't remember her actually. I mean, nothing stands out.
She jumps out buildings and like out of a helicopter at one point, I think, and like she's doing crazy flips over like stairwells and everything. So she does do a lot of active stuff.
The awards were created by Dietrich Mastwich.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the guy.
Yeah, the founder of Red Bull.
Oh,
Taurus Awards. Yeah.
that's kind of cool too. Because remember
The
they had
stunt
that
awards.
whole highest stunt jump ever out of a plane without a spacesuit. This is like
I think,
5 years ago,
I
6
think
years
so,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if that guy died. Probably not. It would have been in the news.
Hmm.
Probably went pretty regular. Shout out Red Bull.
Damn it. There's a story there. We're going to have to come back because it's going to be a clarification. Remember, Dan, there's a story about two guys that tried to go
I'll
out of
remember.
this world.
But shout out Red Bull. That's all I'm
Didn't
saying.
work out for them. They froze.
He hates when I have sponsors.
Yeah. Counter sponsors. We're never gonna get sponsors, guys. We're never gonna get sponsors. Don't worry about it.
Isn't looking good. So that's all I had for salt. We're done, right?
Good.
And then I thought, how stupid would it be to do a whole podcast on the movie Salt 2010, Angelina Jolie?
Yeah, because it's already been done and done better, right?
No. I think this is already the best Salt podcast there's ever been done. We're only 8 minutes into the episode.
Wow.
What I started doing is my research on what you probably meant. The strategic arms limitation talks that happened between the U.S. and Soviet, also known as the SALT. SALT 1,
assault?
1969. No. SALT 1,
Oh,
1969.
Okay.
They wanted us to stop with the nuclear war. And then there was a SALT 2 in 1979 that really caught my attention. And we can get into that. I didn't know. Is that where you wanted to go with SALT?
How many salts are there? Is it ongoing?
Two. Just two.
So they ended? Both of them?
No, they actually turned it. One became the anti-ballistic missile treaty. Do you remember that one? Good one.
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah.
One of my favorites. The other one became like an acronym that had a lot more words. It was like strategic arms lowering the amount remnants talks. So it was like SALARTY or something. I don't know. So they stopped calling it the SALT. So things spiraled out of control. I only recognize canonically SALT 1, 1969, SALT 2,
Canonical. The canon. Going to the canon. What
canon,
other versions of salt did you look up here?
Just different uses of the word and where it came from and all that. That's all.
Oh.
I'm not going to get into it. I think that's it. Now we can get to the meat, the crux, salt of your earth. So what's the other salt? What did you want to do research on?
NaCl? Is it NaCl?
Yeah. You didn't notice? Yeah. Tell me you noticed.
Notice what?
NaCl. Table salt.
Yeah.
Sodium chloride. Do you know it's the only rock that we eat?
Is that true?
Regularly, yes. I mean, you could
accidentally eat whatever rock you want, right? A little dust.
Rock. You could eat some soil.
Yeah.
That's what it's going on. Purposely, though. Kind of weird. And did you know almost all salts, if we're talking from a chemical, biological standpoint, do you know what a salt is?
An ionic compound?
Yes, it's when a base and an acid meet, and that's kind of their leftover. Usually it's one of the first two rows from the periodic table. If you're looking at it on your left, combined with like the ones where they get normal again. Like there's that whole middle section.
Getting sciencey here.
Yeah, I was a bio major. But one of the metals combines with one of the guys in the first two columns. So like NH3, that's a base. That's a stupid base.
What's that, ammonia?
That's a base.
NH3?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. If you combine some kind of pneumonia
hydroxide?
Yeah, some kind of hydroxide, something. We're going to get corrected.
You're talking about...
with HCl, hydrochloric acid, you get NH4Cl.
Is this caustic soda?
Yeah.
Did you read about this?
Actually.
Yes.
No, but I know caustic soda combined with hydrochloric acid will leave you with water and salt, pretty much, right?
Yeah, except the caustic soda was used by, I think, John Dillinger. We talked about this, to remove his fingerprints. It melts your skin. And I was like, oh, I remember this. Let me reread this. Apparently, in the middle of the page, it says, if you stick, like, livestock in a drum of caustic soda, it will turn them into just bones and this brown-looking liquid. So it will dissolve them entirely because it dissolves tissue. Caustic soda.
Why livestock?
That's the example
I
they
was
used.
curious.
I think they used a cow, and I was like, they used it for
Okay.
dissolving cows for some
I'm down with
odd
that.
reason.
That's fine.
Scientific theory, you know. What if we put a whole cow in there, and the raptors just go crazy, and
And the fat kid is still scared. I know.
yeah, Liam Hemsworth.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's almost always a crystal compound. It has a very crystalline structure. You may recognize it. It's often, not always, white.
Mhm.
There are yellow salts, blue salts. There are red salts.
Oh, pretty, very pretty.
It's not always
Himalayan.
just salt stuff you have in your thing. We're gonna get into a little variety. I'm gonna show the audience.
Good.
But it's a mineral. It's a compound. It has no net charge because it's an ionic bonded compound.
Yeah.
Sweet dealio. Is that important?
Because when it pops apart, it starts ripping other things apart. It starts to bond to different things. I think that's part of the reason why your taste buds act differently when you have salt. Because you have a...
They do.
Yeah, you have...
I was going to save taste for the end.
All right, we can push it back.
Because I know you're going to want to get into your special meats and you're going to want to rub stuff down and you're going to taste things. That's how Dan gets after he has a couple drinks in him. So I was just going with my Chem 101, Sir Humphrey Davy, 1807. He's a friend of the podcast. I don't know if he's tuned in right now. He might be...
Sitting in a bucket of caustic soda right now.
He could be.
Possibly.
He was the first one to actually physically break down salt into its base components.
Did he just like...
Sodium chloride.
Did he did what, electrolysis? Do they have electrolysis back
I
then?
believe he did. Yeah,
Wow.
He actually was the proponent, the beginner of electrolysis. And when in doing so, he was like, wow, it just turns out to be chloride and sodium, which are like, or what's Na? Jesus. Yeah, sodium.
Yeah.
But he said these things are pretty useless. Turns out we have a whole shit ton of uses for sodium, a whole shit ton of uses for chloride in its pure forms.
Mm-hmm.
They've like spurned industries themselves, like PVC piping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was one of the first guys. And I was like, that's good on him. Good on Sir Davy.
Yep.
Then I was just like, how do we even get salt? I was like, I don't know. That's where I moved next.
So I'm going to add to your, like you mentioned PVC, they also use it in paper. And
in what?
For making paper.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like trees, right? So we're cutting down trees. Why do we need sodium or chloride?
I have no idea.
Oh, you didn't look it up? Okay. Sorry.
I don't have the detail on it.
Is it in the liquid, I guess? That
it's something about the separation of the pulp. Like the salts do weird things. It's the same thing with metals when they're making aluminum, I think. Like they have salt just floating on the top because it absorbs the impurities and it makes the aluminum more pure. So that's weird.
Makes sense-ish.
Yeah. Plastics, I don't know how they use salt in plastics, but they do.
I did read that salts are involved in plastics. Salts are involved in everything. It's kind of like the water of the physics world. You know, water does like everything. It's solid. You know, it does crazy stuff. Well, salt is kind of like the anti-water, but it's also water soluble. It has like millions of uses. It's willing to trade electrons with anyone. It's like willing to get down with anyone. It's a slut. Salt is a slut.
Yeah. It's also
shout out.
I'm gonna just go through like two more things. It's called a mordant. Mordant, ever heard of that one? It's so that's a dye fixative. So for coloring on clothing, somehow it helps coloring bond to different things. Probably because it has the two ions that kind of force things together. Makes sense to me. That's how I'm gonna use it.
Sure.
And then saponification. Saponification is how you make soap. Fatty acids.
Fight Club.
It's actually
we're talking Fight Club.
Fatty acid salts are soap.
That's cool. We're selling rich people their own fat asses. To quote Brad Pitt in Fight Club.
How did they get the fat to begin with? I forget.
Liposuction. They were stealing it from a liposuction place. It was human fat.
Oh.
So that was ironic. Then they were turning it into fancy soaps and selling it to rich people, who are the only ones who could afford liposuction. So,
cyclic.
Hence,
beautiful,
beautiful, gorgeous. That's awesome. And we're gonna get into some other uses for salt and like what it does to the body and stuff like that. But I wanted to just real quick get in. Where the hell do we get it from? It's in the ocean, right?
Yeah, 3.5% salinity.
Nice. I like that number. I didn't get that number. That's a good number.
Your
That's a solid number.
Your blood is also salty.
So is everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like a salty blood thingamajig.
Yeah.
To use technical terminology.
There is a lyric in a song that your blood is salty like the ocean, but it's actually not. It's a fraction of what the ocean
salty
is.
like we kiss. Right.
So,
no, that's the
that's a
lyric,
different lyric. Is that how?
Mine's from
Oceans be
Dirty
salty.
Heads or Talking Heads.
No, mine's ocean breeze salty. I think it's Modest Mouse. But your blood is 0.9% salinity.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. For a long time, I thought it was the
Almost
same because of that
1.1.
song. Yeah, almost. 0.9.
So, where do we get salt? And it's not just the ocean.
No.
They mine that shit, folks. Did you hear that? They mine that shit, folks. That's what they do. How? They have big old tractors and shit that go underground and do all sorts of crazy shit. Explain the shit. I apologize. They have tunnels, at least in the UK place I was researching, 140 miles of tunnel. And I was like, whoa,
it's pretty
that's
big.
a lot of tunnel. Now, I'm sure they're mining other stuff, but they're mining salt while they do it because this is a naturally occurring thing in the Earth's crust. I mean, you can get it, you find it, you bring it. It's very raw. It's mixed with a lot of other stuff. There's another way to do it. You can literally flood a salt cave with water and then suck all that water back up with a vacuum. And they place it in what are called, evaporating vessels. They're like, we talked about distilling the one time where it was like one tube and you boil it and then you collect all the evaporation and then it goes through another tube. They do that for salt collection too.
So it's like
because you're getting salt every time and you're getting less and less and less salt.
Yeah.
So you bleed out all the salt and you got it, baby. It's boom.
Exactly.
Because when water evaporates, it leaves behind the salt. Water's going, oh, I'm hydrogen, oxygen, I'm floating in the air. Salt's like, I can't make it. I weigh too much. So it's stuck wherever you're evaporating it.
Yeah, those items.
Hi, I need the salt. Thank you.
I need that.
No, you don't need that. I need that. I'm cooking. Thank you.
I literally, that was not planned, not anything, and I need it for my next demonstration. My podcast is literally ruined.
Okay.
Anyway.
So how do you get salt, Nick? He's taking from your woman. I need that, Nick.
From the kitchen. That was definitely a peeved.
Yeah.
accent.
You should have set up your own. What's called a bricktage. A bricktage is the vessel they use to evaporate the water to get salt from.
In a way, she's actually rather clever if you think about it, because who would think that I brought the salt down for the podcast?
Yeah.
The podcast topic was salt. 2010, so she must have.
She clicked.
She figured it out.
I need the
another way to get salt is to go downstairs, find someone doing a podcast on salt, and take it from them. And a fourth way is called brine evaporation.
Yes,
it's actually where they just force salt water into these like shallow areas in like equatorial areas.
I've seen them, in hotter areas that have rapid evaporation. I've seen it like China does this too. They have the steps, so like almost like a rice paddy. It's the same thing. They have equal level steps, and they just flood them and then let them salt up. I guess that's in areas where you can't grow crops because salt
is bad for crops.
Very bad.
We'll get into.
Yeah.
So that was it, and then the next section I had was kinds of salt that we have in our kitchen, and I'm down one.
All right.
Anyway, we have what's called. I'll start with road salt because that's like the corniest.
The
salt.
de-icing salt.
It's like the salt. Yeah. So they throw salt on the roads.
That's
like
like calcium chloride, right?
No. That's ice melt. Jesus Christ! I sold the stuff for a living. Rock salt. Okay?
Rock salt
is the cheapest, shittiest stuff. You can get it for like $5 for a 50-pounder. Do you know what rock salt is? It's that stuff that they mine right out of the earth. It comes out of the mine like that. It's brown.
Mm-hmm.
It has tons of pollutants in it. It's unrefined. It's just salt. It's halite. Unrefined. Okay? So you get it. It's dirty as hell. I would not request to eat it. The benefit is, do you know what it does when you put it on roads in the cold? Do you know how
it drops the freezing temperature about 30 to 60 degrees. I think the lowest it can get is like negative 30.
Oh no!
Maybe
No,
it's
you
for
can't do that with-
the ones I read about the planes, de-icing the planes, because they mix it with glycol and other
It's
alcohols and stuff.
possible. Oh well, here
That might be okay. Sorry, moved
that's a
ahead.
mixture. No, you're literally touching on everything I know about it. But
Good.
road salt that we get, that 99% of the time your township throws all over the roads,
Mm-hmm.
it's just natural halite. It's NaCl in its rawest form. It's dirty. It's polluted. It's gross. It's whatever. I would never eat it off the ground. It lowers the temperature of freezing point. So a mixture of water doesn't freeze at 32. Water in a mixture with salt freezes in like closer to 22 or 21 or something like that. So if it's like 24, 28, we got water, folks. You can look it up.
I
Give
am.
me the exact number. So then ice
Negative.
melt.
No, it goes to a 10% salt solution freezes at 20 degrees Fahrenheit. A 20% to
Do you know what
Fahrenheit.
that would require on your roads? It would just be salt.
Well, that's exactly what they do.
No, they
It's
don't.
salt
It's
everywhere.
probably like closer.
It's going to
probably
rust
like
out your car.
Probably 5%. But lucky for us, we make a product called ice melt, not to be confused with rock salt. Ice melt is like magnesium mixed in with chloride, potassium sometimes mixed with chloride,
Mm-hmm.
calcium chloride. They make all sorts of chlorides, and you'll notice a pattern here, what I discussed earlier.
Mm-hmm.
All the metals mixed with these.
Small white spheres called prills.
No, I was going with their name on the chemical tree, but
Oh.
yeah, noble gases or something like that. But yeah, they yes, they do form in either pellets or flakes, and they can lower our freezing point to like -10, -5, 5 positive. Like that's the range. They kind of drop that freezing point down here, and they don't eat up your sidewalk.
Yeah.
So
Solutions
they're
of
desensitizing.
calcium chloride can prevent freezing at temperatures as low as -62 Fahrenheit.
Can they go that low?
They can go that low.
Which form?
That's calcium chloride.
Interesting. And you're gonna pay for that, I imagine. Most of the stuff you find in your Home Depot and stuff probably closer to -10, -5. Just because I sold stuff, and we get in like 3 different blends, and our blends ran from like 5 positive Fahrenheit, 0, and -5 and -10, and that's at like $30 bucks a 50-pound bagger. And you do not want to get those suckers wet on the inside because they clump.
Big chunk on the road. Getting hit with a baseball.
But that's how they work. And those salts are awful. You don't want to eat them. We move on to table salt, everyone's favorite. Oh,
Yeah.
man. We all got table salt. You know the little girl with the umbrella?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Mrs.
know her?
Morton.
Yeah, Morton's. That's my dad's cousin. We don't have to work anymore. We're famous.
Yeah, wow.
My family's millionaires. We call her Little Morty, and she gives us like a couple mil every year. She's super famous. Anyway, this salt, it comes from a factory, right? Like this stuff. You get it? You put it on your food. It's 97% sodium. It's refined, and it's actually mixed with anti-caking agents. Ooh, sounds delicious, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise it would clump because of the moisture in the air.
Which is what usually is sugar, right?
Ooh, yeah. Oh, it makes your drinks taste good.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, he's taking a sip. A little salty.
It tastes like the ocean, but getting drunk.
Oh,
Wow. So, the next step up, people will tell you, don't do refined salt. That stuff's not good for you. Too much salt. Move to sea salt. Do you know what sea salt is?
Is it
Mine's
directly
missing.
from the ocean?
Yes, it is. It's evaporated salt from the ocean. If I had it down here, it was recently taken from me. I would have cracked some into my drink right now. You have to crack it.
Oh, huh. It's bigger crystals for some reason. I don't know if that's just the way they do
Then-
it to make it seem special.
Well, it's the grinder does that. And
Yeah,
it does
make it-
feel special. Right,
Yeah.
of course. Next up, Himalayan pink salt. Oh, we ran out here, actually. I didn't even have that. It wasn't stolen from me. But that's actually from one particular salt mine in Kura, Pakistan. Check that out. Do you know why it's pink? It's not dyed. It's because of iron oxide, like rust. Check that shit out.
So you're just putting rust on your body, essentially.
Well, hold on. There's rust in there. There's magnesium. There's calcium. There's a bunch of other nutrients that your body could use.
Minerals.
We'll get to this at the end. Minerals, correct. Sorry. You could use those. and they sound good, and it tastes different. Lastly, we have kosher salt, which I didn't have either. Kosher salt is just really flaky. It's large, and it's more blessed than the other salts.
Yeah. Oh, they don't kill a pig when they do it, right?
Correct.
That's what goes on a pretzel.
Lastly,
Philadelphia pretzel.
so lastly, there are things called infused
Smelling
salts.
salts?
No, infused. Infused salt can be anything. You can infuse anything in salt. Guess what I got here, folks? Habanero salt. This stuff's awesome to cook with.
Spicy?
Yeah, oh, dude, you get a couple of habaneros pops, you feel it. I'm putting a couple in my drink here. We'll see if I die. And to prove I did it, can you see that?
Oh, I can see it. Yeah, it's got kicking it
Yeah,
up.
it's
Kicking
see
it
what
up
it's
a
gonna do.
notch, if that isn't
Exactly.
copyrighted.
So,
Bam!
so finally, everyone always asks, which salt should I do? Which is good for you? Which is the healthiest? Well, honestly, Himalayan pink salt is probably the healthiest for you. But they've done a lot of studies, and mostly your body absorbs like less than 1% of every other nutrient in there, so it's all bullshit. You can do whatever salt you kind of want. It's more about taste than anything else. Which will move us to
Smelling
taste,
salts.
probably. Oh, what's in smelling salts? It's
So
probably ammonia.
yeah, exactly. Smelling salts are ammonia, NH3, which you talked about earlier. It just irritates your nose and your membranes.
Factory bulbs.
It makes you work, so it wakes you up. That's pretty much it. It is toxic though, so don't do it a lot.
Is that what poppers are?
I don't know
never
what a
did
popper is. They do it on the bench, right?
Make you high. Yeah, no,
Nice
no,
high.
like poppers. It's like a drug. Like Always Sunny does an episode on poppers. You sniff it, you get like high for like a hot minute.
It
Probably
seems
some
like a
ammonia
dumb
in that.
drug. It's a terrible drug.
Oh yeah, so is sniffing glue and other things. All drugs are dumb. Nitrous. I mean, think about it. They kill your brain. You're like, what is a popper? I really have no idea.
Inhaled recreational drugs.
Okay,
Yeah,
there we
you-
go. We've solved the case, folks.
Well, I don't know if this is founded, but it says poppers have been historically used for sexual encounters among the youth, including the gay community. I don't know why it specifies. There's some weird stuff going on in the bottom of your glass there with the.
Up and down. That's wild, dude. It's like going up and down. It's like floating around. I may have started a new craze.
Yeah, it's a trend.
Habaneros. Oh.
Yeah, so don't do poppers. Don't do drugs.
Sure.
Poppers seem like they're terrible drugs.
Do you want to move into taste or how your body uses salt?
I want to go into the history actually.
Oh, okay.
So
You going to like 6,000 BC?
yeah, actually, in
Weird.
Bulgaria, we were in the same thing.
I had China, but okay.
Well, China does it too. So
Okay.
there's like back then, I guess they didn't have ice, they didn't have refrigeration, they didn't have ways of preserving food.
My man, you're absolutely right.
So they had to salt meats and fish to keep them cured. And
Why
keep
would
them
they
fresh.
salt them?
It absorbs all the water from the fish or the meat.
Oh shit, folks. And
And you got another one? It kills bacteria.
oh shit! Oh my god, that's wild. So it keeps it fresh without refrigeration. So before refrigerators, we had to put salt all over our stuff to kind of keep it from spoiling and going bad and getting nasty, right?
Yep. So there was actually a town in Europe, in Bulgaria, called Solnitsata, which I think actually means salt mine.
Did you come across that there's like 14 cities over the world that are called City of Salt, but in that language?
Oh, yeah. Well, they said
Did
it
you
was
come
like
across
the
it?
start. Well, I didn't read that much
maybe
about
the first. Maybe the first. That's fine.
but it was like the first sighting of like an actual city. Like the first city that was ever made in Europe was dedicated to getting salt,
Salt.
mining
pretty cool.
salt.
That's
It's
awesome.
it's kind of an insane thing.
Hmm.
That you like in order to travel and preserve food. Imagine you being like someone who's just showing someone like you can preserve food in salt, and you like pull out this like stick of meat, and they're like, "What? Like you've just been traveling with that?" And then you cook it up, you make it nice and hot, and then you give it to him, and he's like, "Shish kebab, this is delicious.
Shish kebab.
Give me some of that." And they'd be like,
Example.
"Yeah." They did say that it. I don't know if it did say dubious comment, whether it's questionable though. But they said it's worth its weight in gold back then. You could trade salt for gold.
It definitely was one of the more important trade ingredients. I think it almost became a currency in some places.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that's why we have salary? It's based on the word salt.
It is. Really?
Yeah, back in Roman times, the Romans who were worth their salt. This is the joke that led into the next comment, so I stole it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Funny.
Go.
Any Romans who were worth their salt were actually paid what's called a salary. Well, I forget what podcast or YouTube video or something, but they were like sal, which was the Latin for salt, I think. SAL. Is that what it was? Anyway, so that's why salad is also based on the word salt, and salary.
Salad, because you would add salty something to it?
You add salt to every greenery, whether it's dressing, salt itself, or whatever.
Okay, so that's another thing, is that vegetables that were grown contain no salts. So like a human being is salty, as well as animals are salty. So if your diet consisted of mainly animals, you were okay, because you were absorbing salt from their meat. But if you were eating a vegetarian diet, you needed to get salt from somewhere else. Hence the salad, you'd add salt to your vegetables.
Interesting you say that. We'll get into something later. Although, did you know you need 6 grams of salt a day? For your body?
For the necessary functioning of...
I didn't want to get into our body yet.
Okay.
Come back to that.
You can wait.
Back to that.
You can wait.
But anyway, salary. They would give the soldiers their pay, and they would go and buy their allotment of salt for the month. Because it wasn't cheap. It was like something you had to buy. It was like buying refrigeration, essentially, right?
Yeah, that's almost
refrigeration.
It's almost biblical in a sense. So they had salt.
Of salt.
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
they had that one woman that was never named leaving Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And she turned around, and they turned her into a pillar of salt.
Hell yeah, that's like pillar of gold. Bitches, we gonna turn you into a pillar of salt.
Or like salt. I always thought it was salt of the earth, but I think it's salt on the earth. The religious
salt of the earth, isn't it?
I thought it was like I kept reading this, and I the interpretation was completely wrong from what I previously understood. That like God.
I don't know if anyone's following the podcast right this second, but lists usually turn them off. Salary, salad, worth your salt, salty, salt in the wound, salt of the earth.
So wait, salt
in the sky.
Talk about that. Like salt. We'll do salt in the wound or salt of the earth. Which one do you want to talk about?
Do you know if you salt the earth, nothing will grow there, and we will get into that in a cellular level later.
Okay.
But I mean, that's what happens if you throw a whole bunch of salt in an area. It's very salty.
Yeah.
Plants don't grow there.
So the earth and salt. It doesn't. Yeah, it does not work well. Usually, if you conquer people in the olden days, you would sow their fields with salt, so they couldn't live there. They couldn't grow their own foods. You'd be screwing them over.
You salty? You salty, fam?
Yeah,
that's what I'd say.
Just rub it in their faces.
Worth one salt. An old saying was to take bread and salt with someone. That meant you greatly appreciated them because you paid all your money for all your bread and all your salt. If someone was below the salt, they were like lowly, they were dirty, they were nasty. And this is my favorite salt term. It died in the 16th century. I think someone tried to make it happen, like Gretchen tried to make fetch happen. Some people tried to make salt. It was usually about your dog. It was their amount of sexual desire or excitement, usually a dog. It was like, one's salt on your animal is out of control. And they'd be like, I get it. My dog's horny.
What is the term?
It's salt. You would use it when you were referring to sexual desire or excitement, usually in a dog.
You like throw salt on him?
I don't know. I have no idea where it came from, and it has been discontinued around the 16th century. But maybe we bring it back. And I'm like, your dog humped my kid. Maybe check that salt on that bitch.
So
did I say that right?
Possibly. So the scripture verse that comes from salt of the earth is, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." So I always thought salt of the earth meant like you were like lowly, like you were part of the earth.
We've come to change, I think, the definition of that term. I think.
Well, from this scripture, it sounds like God is sprinkling the earth with humans and making the earth taste better. We are making it spicy and salty. Yeah. I could just see him just like,
whoa,
what's that guy?
Off,
he sprinkles the salt and
Salt Bay. Oh my God! How did Salt Bay not come up today?
He licks that salt, baby.
Salt Bay.
I could see God doing that. Oh yeah. And
did you know most of Oh, go ahead.
Salt in the wound.
Yeah.
So that it's physical pain when you actually put salt in a wound. I don't know if you know that. But it's actually not that bad for a wound because it kills bacteria. If you go to the hospital, they usually have like a saline flush, which is like your blood is salty. Your body doesn't mind a little bit of salt, so it's good to flush out things with a little water and salt.
I agree with that.
So salt in the wound is actually not that terrible a thing. It just feels bad.
But I think that's the whole point of the phrase. It's making you feel bad on purpose. I don't think people are being nice when doing salt in the wound. By the way, this habanero salt is
still dancing. Getting friskier.
No, it died down, but I'm finishing my drink here, making it beautiful.
I need the salt. I'm making dinner.
Oh, she was mad.
She was pissed.
God damn it! And I literally would have been done by now. Can you imagine if she showed up now? I'd be like, "Here, have this, babe. I don't need that." Anyway,
I'm tired of your shit.
Women are salty. Women are salty. That's all.
Yeah.
So moving on, something we touched on was that salt became important. Salt was like important in our first cities, our trades. Did you know most of I almost called them roads, but they were before roads were really invented. There were animals that would go to great lengths to do salt licks, like elk.
So the salt routes, developed into roads.
They became roads. Hell yeah! So salt was pretty important. It was like the most important spice.
Yeah, I think you were mocking me for like salt. Like really? Well, you pick salt as a topic, and it's like, whoa, wait a second.
I mean, in defense, I thought you were talking about the 2010 movie Salt, which was a couple of awards for best stunts in the 2011 stunt. This is like probably the Red Bull thing. They did win 2 or 3 other awards for
Taurus
stunts
awards.
in that. It wasn't just the Taurus award. Okay, they won other ones. So they also were the only action movie ever nominated for best sound mixing that didn't get nominated for best picture. So
wow.
I'm just saying, you really were shitting on the idea, but I'm telling you, there's a lot going on in Salt 2010.
So the salt that you took, was that an iodized salt? Added iodine to it?
This is
iodized. You know why?
Do you know why?
Do you know why?
To fight mental retardation, to fight words I used in the thing. It was in there. I don't know how factual that is. It's to help to fight certain diseases.
So there's like goiter, and then there's like hypothyroidism, which affects your weight. It's the balance of, I guess, like not water weight, but like if your thyroid is out of whack, it makes you actually physically fatter.
Thyroid
or super skinnier. Yeah, it's just weight gain and loss.
My mom, check this. This is one of those crazy stories that no one believes, or sort of believes, or everyone believes, or it's coincidence. My mom was dropping off my dad. She may have drove him to a doctor's appointment. It was one of those Chinese doctors. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, you know what I mean? And they're like, my dad was trying
Eastern
to
thought.
back pain. Yeah, yes, thank you.
Home remedies.
Thank you. That's yes. But they were like, he had back pain and neck pain and shoulder pain his whole life. And as my mom dropped him off, she's waiting in the waiting room, and the receptionist, who is the doctor's wife, was looking at my mom. She's like, "You have goiter. You have a problem with thyroid." And my mom was like, "Thank you. I'm here for my husband. I'm just dropping off my husband."
He could see it. Like he could.
The doctor's wife, who was the receptionist, said this to my mom. So she didn't think anything of it, except that she was losing a lot of weight, like a lot of weight, and like something was going on. She went to the doctors. Turns out her thyroid went bad, and that she did have something, and that woman was absolutely right. and my mom had to have her thyroid irradiated. Radiation.
Yeah.
Radiation.
It's an interesting thing because the thyroid, like iodine, would be a radioactive in certain forms.
Yes.
So they would
It was
give
iodine. Yeah.
they would give iodine to people prior to working with radiation, so that the radiation wouldn't fill your thyroid with radiated iodine. So maybe they like flushed out.
Do the opposite.
I don't know.
Maybe they did the opposite, dude. Maybe they radiated it. Either way, shout out that doctor's wife and shout out my mom. Big fans of the podcast, both of them probably.
So the other mention was cretinism. Cretinism? It's the mental deficiency one. Yeah, it's a mental deficiency, deafness, squint, disorders of stance and gait, and stunted growth due to hypothyroidism.
Is it legit or is it like more?
No, that's legit.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a result of intermarriage. But
shout out intermarriage. I mean, everyone's got some.
I mean, we all come from the same place, right?
Moving on to how our bodies use salt.
Yeah. So how do we
use salt? This is a very
salt?
important thing.
So salt is a controller of
freaking time.
Moisture,
it's
right?
Awesome.
Fluid. If you have too much salt in your body, it absorbs too much liquid, right?
Ah, you're talking about osmosis, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
So osmosis goes from less to more and more to less. Unless, of course, you have salt.
Mm-hmm.
So there's salt floating around in your blood, between your cells, all this other stuff. If your cell is dehydrated, it may take salt into its membrane because water will come to it, attract to it, and bind to it.
Mm-hmm.
So by taking salt into it, it's pulling water into it. That's how you can overfill. Problem is, if you have too much salt in a cell, it overfills. The cell walls get pressured.
Yeah, the same thing happens
If
with
there's too much salt outside of the cell, all the water comes rushing out of the cells. Dehydrates things. This happens especially in plant cell walls. You salt plants, guess what? All the salt's outside the cells. All the water will rush out of the cell, cell walls, and they don't have enough water to live. Salt is super cool, important.
So one of the things...
That's the habanero.
No, that's the habanero.
Yeah, definitely.
So like, one of the leading causes of death, since we covered this already, is that heart disease. Heart disease can be caused by too much salt in the diet, which rarely anyone ever talks about. It's like because your body's taking on so much water that your heart is fighting your body's own immense amount of water in it, and it's working harder. So over the life, if you're eating too much salt, your heart's going to fail eventually. So cardiovascular disease is an effect of too much salt. But if you have the right amount of salt, it's what? An electrolyte? Key word right there?
Sorry. Jesus Christ, the habanero is really working on me.
Yeah.
So salt in water has this weird property where it helps actually transfer electronic impulses, correct?
Yep.
So, guess what the brain, the nervous system, and a bunch of other systems in the body work on? Electronic pulses.
Yeah. It's called an axon, right?
Ah. So our body needs salt to communicate, especially along the nerves and the brain and all the other stuff. So we have just tiny bits of salt. We sprace out through the whole body, put them up here, put them over here, put them in the nervous system, and we need it to communicate faster. That's how we communicate so quickly throughout the body, throughout the brain. We need salt.
I actually did a test on this. So there's like earthworms and squids, they have larger nerves than most, so they call it a giant axon. And you can actually measure the wave of ions, salts, moving across the nerve stimulus. So you can watch it as it flows. And it's a weird, like the way a cell works is almost like Kerplunk. Have you ever played Kerplunk? Yeah, you pull out the little... So you have these like gates that have these kind of like Kerplunk style things to them. What are you thinking? Oh, he's going to fold a piece of paper to try to get it?
No.
Does it say Kerplunk on it?
No.
It better say Kerplunk. I'm going to say it says Kerplunk. Even though no one can see it. I can't read that because the focal distance is too far away. Fat, Na+, positive ions, osmosis, and something about depletion.
So check this out. The reason water isn't just constantly flowing in and out of things is because all our cells are made of lipids. They're like proteins that are hydrophobic. They don't like water.
They're battling the water.
It's like two heads with tails going out here, and the water can't get in.
Yep.
Water doesn't just cross.
Your
these
entire
membranes
skin
through
is
them.
that way.
Yep.
All of your skin
Everything.
is that way.
Almost all your cells are that way, I think. The thing is, every so often they have these tubes where different things can come into the cell.
Yep.
Well, guess what? Salt is super important. Salt's floating around your blood. It's floating around your body. Hey, we need salt bad. As salt passes, sometimes it can take an electron, I believe, from the...
It uses the ionic... I think it's potassium, actually. It might be Na and potassium. And then somehow it, like, changes the formation of the gate.
membrane.
And it, like, shifts it. Almost like you're, like, shifting, like, a bunch of rods in the kerplunk. And, like, morphing them. So they, like, change from, like, one key into another key. And as they're changing, they're letting things pass through them. And it can do it both ways. Pump in and out.
Exactly. So what your body does, it uses salt to get stuff into the cell, like real quick. Like, yo, we need more K. I need more potassium. I need more. I'm making stuff up at this point, but I need more stuff in here. Well, ions, we need something not electronically charged, but has electrons to give. I think I said that right.
I don't know.
So we use salt to cross the boundary, and it changes the formation. Or vice versa. If we need salt to leave or something to leave, we throw salt out. And I think I'm mincing words here, but you get the idea, folks.
We gotcha.
Use salt for our goddamn bodies. It makes this stuff work.
So the one thing we didn't say was that, like, water will reach an equilibrium, and you kind of touched it with osmosis, unless you have salt, and then the salty side will absorb more water. So one of the common things is if you're stranded in the ocean, you can't drink the water in the ocean because it's too salty. It will absorb water into your intestinal tract, and then you'll lose water. So how do you survive on the ocean?
Do you make a nice big tub of water with a nice clear plastic film over it and then evaporate it in the sun and drink that water?
You could, but you won't make enough to survive.
No, you're absolutely right. That's like this much water.
There was somebody who survived. I think a typhoon hit somewhere around India, and they had somehow lived in, like, a crab shack that was out in the ocean, and they floated away. They said they filtered the seawater through, like, a piece of clothing to knock out some of the salt, and then drank it that way. Doesn't sound very plausible, but if you know reverse osmosis, you can pressurize
reverse osmosis, baby.
You can pressurize salt water and push it through a filter, which will then push out the regular water, and keep it salty inside the bottle.
Water?
I was going to say water, but I wanted it to be not Philadelphia-like.
Interesting. I agree with that.
So you might survive if you can find a membrane that will hold back the salt and do reverse osmosis.
Interesting. The other thing that's interesting is salt inside the body. I think they use, I don't know if it's salt itself or one of the components of salt to maintain cell shape. Like, that's how we have our cell shapes. The filaments that make up cells are that salt, baby.
So pressurizing the cell by having enough salt in it and water.
That could be it. Maybe that's what they meant.
The structure is the
other
water.
thing is, it regulates our blood pressure. That's why when you touched on this before, when you have too much, it can raise your blood pressure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Your heart's working too hard. The other crazy thing is it deals with our hormones a lot. Gets involved. One of the big ones is aldosterone. It regulates our kidneys. It has to do with glucocorticoids. Glucocorticoids.
What the hell they do?
They actually have to do with your body's salt and water levels and your metabolism. Glucocorticoids. Woo!
That's hard to say. I'm reading it and I don't want to say it.
Glucocorticoids. Yeah.
Glucocorticoids.
I said it right before him. Let the record show.
So it's like a bunch of steroids, different types of steroids.
Are they involved in steroids?
So the steroids can be two different types. They can be the type that build muscle and the type that kind of like is a like an antihistamine.
Huh.
It helps things function. Like
I didn't
cortisol.
know that. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, cortisol relieves stress on a wound, essentially.
Interesting. Well, it's super important for our bodies. It's super important for us to be alive. It's necessary for us to be here today.
Yeah, and it was used in religion as well.
Oh,
They
right,
have
yeah.
a whole bunch of biblical verses about it. One of the things in the past, obviously they weighed their own salaries on salt, like you said, but they would also use salt water and throw it into fire to add a little crackle to their demonstration, which leads into holy water. Like that's one of they say is the beginning of holy water, that they would now use water instead of the salt water, because the act of throwing it in the fire made a crackle, made it more like, oh, amazing. That
Hell
like,
yeah. More hell yeah. We
Yeah.
can call it that. Hell yeah. That's a real word, right? Hell yeah.
what was blame Canada? Fuck yeah, America.
America.
Yeah, God, yeah, woo. Throw some salt in the fire.
I didn't know that.
Also, what do they say? Jesus could walk on water?
I think it was a salty water, like 100% saline solution water.
So, like, the Dead Sea is 7 to 9 times saltier than the ocean, which would put it
So
at
what's that,
24-ish percent, 25-ish percent.
No way. 24% saline solution. That's wild.
That's salty.
Wait, is the Dead Sea? Can anything live in the Dead Sea? I had no
No.
idea. I didn't look this up.
And there might be
Nothing.
like some weird bacteria that can live on the salt.
Right.
Yeah, but no like fish or
No
anything.
regular-
Nothing that like I'm gonna look at this later. But so there's one reporter that was talking about going to the Dead Sea, and they said that you can't swim in it because if you get it anywhere in your face or eyes, it's very painful. They don't splash it,
Salty.
but you can also float. So if you get up to your waist, it starts to lift you up. So that's probably where the walking on water came from. And people can lounge in it and float without trying at all because it's super dense. But
let it show that Dan's trying to disprove God. I beloved God. He's my favorite God.
sorry, God.
Also, this is my bit of salt and pepper.
Just a little bit.
Podcast here. Yeah, right here, folks.
Wow.
Salt Bay.
Salt Bay. Didn't he? The last thing he did was flip a burger or something, right? What was that?
Yeah, no. Do you remember he dropped cheese from like the second floor onto the burger? I think I did it on the podcast. I can't remember. That's the problem with drinking.
Well, yeah. Oh.
So, God bless him. Someone said he has bad political views, so we should stop watching him. Which is, we could do a whole episode on what if your musical artist has bad political views? Like, should you stop listening to them?
Who cares? I just want the music.
I stand on that. I know, exactly. But there comes a point where, let's say your favorite musical artist, who's not even your favorite, let's say he's like, you like him.
Flat
He makes
Earth.
good music, you're like,
Flat Earth is true.
he's cool. Sure, let's say Modest Mouse. Let's say the whole group comes out in 4 years and says, we love pedophilia. Would you be like, not going to get that Modest Mouse tattoo? Like, you know what I mean?
Take Led Zeppelin. Somehow they come back.
Yeah. Oh my God. And then they say they love having sex with kids. I'd be like
this
what would you do?
this symbol
Like,
exactly, which is tattooed on your back. Oh, this is exactly what it is. This is the moment I.
And no, you're lucky because mine's a Celtic symbol of family.
Okay.
Father, mother, child, and that's what that is. I know it looks like the Led Zeppelin too, but I love Celtic.
It's to clarify.
Just to clarify, this is. I would get another tattoo that said Celtic tattoo above it. Not.
The Dead Sea is called the Dead Sea because it only holds small quantities of bacteria and fungi, but no organisms.
It's fungi.
Fungi.
I bought a sandwich at McDonald's today. How do you pronounce ARTISA?
Artisanal?
Yeah, it was like art. I know, but like when I asked for it today at McDonald's, because I brought my kid to McDonald's, I was like, artisanal? And she was like, artisanal sandwich.
Arsenal.
And she said it and looked at it. And she looked at me in the eyes when she did it.
Artisanal. Through that shitty speaker that you can't even hear in the back. Artisanal. Like he's just like,
yeah.
son of a
It's like,
bitch.
damn, lady, you told me. So let's move on to the last part of salt. Is it even good in food? Like, is it good? Does it taste good? Is there a thing about that? I have no idea.
So what actually happens? You have no
Let's
idea?
start with the first step.
Bitterness?
Do you know it kicks out before that? Do you know when you add salt to meat, when you add salt to foods, it kicks out bacteria, it kicks out just random elements because it's antibacterial, it's ionic, no one likes it, it doesn't play well with certain randos.
Yeah. Well, if you have a steak, you're supposed to salt it heavily on both sides because it seals in the moisture. When you go to cook it, the moisture can't escape because of the salt barrier.
From what I read, you're on it, but so let's say you salt meat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number one, while you're doing it, the salt forces out certain microbes and stuff that you kind of could care less about. They don't really affect the taste, but they smell.
Really?
Salt doesn't work well with the things that stink. So the stink comes out. So when you salt things, you can smell them better. Because those microbes are forced out of the steak into the air, and you go, ooh, I love that. So like you salt things, and then it's like you're smelling them more because they don't want to hang out with the salt. No one wants to hang out with salt. The other thing that happens is the salt binds to the water, it binds to the muscle, the fibers, it binds to a lot of things. And when you cook, you can't cook off the salt and the water. So otherwise, if you were just cooking a steak without salt, you're cooking off a lot of the water, and you're losing a lot of moisture. You're
making it tough. Yeah, without salt.
With salt, the salt hangs out, and it's like, hey, I'm hanging out with this water. Hey, I'm hanging out with this guy. It's bonded to all these people. And it's just hanging them here. It's like, whoa, we're all homies.
Keeping them nice and tight.
So you burn off as much as you can. Guess what? These guys aren't leaving. So there's more moisture, there's more flavor, and it's kicking out the smells. The smells are like, I can't hang out with this salt guy. He's awful. And they go right into your little nose. Yeah. So you smell the food. And that's one of the more important things. So when you're tasting food, you're smelling it and eating it. We all know how the nose and the taste buds are connected, right?
Yeah.
Did you want to get to the next step about taste buds? I know you love them.
Yeah. So what are the different taste buds? There's...
Give me 5. Hit me with 5.
Bitter, salty, sour, sweet, and umami, or savory, depending on
savory.
So what does salt do to those?
I'll tell you one quicker. So there's five taste zones, taste buds, taste factors.
Yeah,
taste
delicious.
Somethings. There are 2,000 to 5,000 taste buds on the average tongue. We won't get into super tasters. Did you do any super taster research? Good. Neither did I. Of those taste buds, each taste bud has 50 to 100 taste receptor cells. These are cells in the taste bud itself. The little lumpy sons of bitches on your tongue, those are taste buds. In each one, there's 50 to 100 taste cells. Okay, folks?
That's a lot of cells dedicated to taste.
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
And I think super tasters have more, but we're not going to get into those people.
Super tasters.
So, what happens is your body creates pathways in these little taste receptor cells. So sweet fits perfectly in this one. It's like,
it's right on the tip.
It's perfectly over here. Yeah. I don't know that.
I don't know that they're co-located. I mean, in certain areas they are.
Check this. Wait, do you want to check this? Do you know you have taste buds in your throat, in your tongue, in the sides of your mouth, the roof of your mouth, the other side? Check that shit, huh, folks? I just blew your mind.
That's a good fact.
So certain chemicals, compounds, different foods can go into the receptor. Like it's shaped a certain way on the cellular level.
Like a lock and key.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our body was trained to know where NaCl or salt tastes were. And ironically enough, of all the tastes, salt can overcome other tastes. You want to get into that? Did you do any of that?
Yeah. The one, I read a couple facts that when you first taste salt, it knocks out your bitter taste buds. So you can't taste bitter quite as well, but it enhances all of the other taste buds. So all the other taste buds are going crazy and like, oh, this is fantastic. Until you have too much salt. And then it pretty much knocks out everything except savory. So you can only taste savory, but savory tastes delicious. Like in meats.
Meat, baby.
Which makes perfect sense because in our 6000 BC, people were salting meat to make it preserve longer. So we would pair salt and meat together, and that's how we taste things.
So real quick to break it down, salt is often in salty foods. Savory, often unami, meat, or like meaty, or like that savory. It's hard to describe the words without the words. Sweet, candy, sugars. Did you know carbohydrates taste sweet? I was like, oh really?
Complex sugars.
There you go. Yeah, baby. Bitter, like coffee, cigarettes, certain things have
a bitter taste to them.
And sour. I didn't look up any definitions, so sure.
So, let's say the origin of this was that I was looking at a pond that was just emptied, cleaned, and refilled, and it was absolutely clear. And I was thinking that it's fresh water, not salt water, and this is the start of the episode where I was like, this is what salt is. And the only thing I could think about salt is A, salt water, and B, it's something we eat. And it turns out we only use salt for edible purposes about 6% of the time. Everything else is like a manufacturing process or industrialized process. It's something that, or rock salt, it has nothing to do with eating it. Which, after you think about it, you're like, salt is pervasive.
Damn.
It's in a lot of what we do. It's in our bodies. It's controlling a lot of the processes, or muscles, or whole body.
Dye, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's in a lot of different things.
Salt's important. Salt's cool. Salt 2010 was up for Best Picture, but it wasn't Oscars. It was in like some lesser known company, like Best Motion Picture featuring Russia. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. The Taurus Awards.
Shout out. No. We got into the Taurus Awards. I understand. I wish I had the name of the company. I would have given it to you. I mean, 6.4 on IMDb is not bad. Not great. But salt is important. It does a lot. It is a lot. The other thing is, do you know why we have salt and pepper?
No, do they do opposite things? Like what is?
A little bit. Salt is water soluble. Pepper is fat soluble.
Ah, that makes sense.
Did you also get into this? Pepper for a while was one of the most expensive spices. Do you know why? Bullshit.
Yeah.
Apparently they came across some. It's only grown in the peppercorn flour, and you have to grind it as well. It's these ugly black little pearls.
Yeah.
Get it? Grind it. Boom, boom, boom.
Salt and pepper, the biggest condiments we have.
Exactly. Well, why are they every dinner table? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Awful when I drink. That was ice cube. I swallowed
okay,
ice
good.
with it.
I thought that was a grain of salt you crunched.
No.
Man.
The other thing is to keep in mind is salt and pepper are white and black. I almost think it's a little bit aesthetically pleasing. Ooh, I can taste that pepper. So it's like diametrics of opposite sides. Like, hey, this is white. Hey, this is black. This is dark. This is evil. This is good. This is bad. The other thing to keep in mind, King Louis in France, the 14th, I think he was one of the predecessors of like food being done a certain way for certain people. He said chicken has to be done this way. He says we have to serve this way. Oh, you always have to have potatoes with this. Like he had rules about his food, which
menu rules.
Today. Exactly. And they pervade today. Now he was old as shit. I don't remember what year King Louis was, but
which one?
Do you know what his rule was for most of his, I think 14th. his rule for seasoning most of his foods was a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper, not too much. And so salt and pepper became like synonymous with King Louis. And
so the 14th was in the early 1700s.
There you go. My man set a precedent. The other thing is they claimed that the peppercorn flour, I wish I remembered where it was. I didn't write it down. Had to be peppercorn. Had to be harvested by lizards that breathed fire, and they had to stop them, and that's why it was so expensive. And people believed it. This was like the coolest ingredient ever. So you got black and white. You got water soluble, fat soluble. You got the most expensive, beautiful thing that's been around since the dawn of time, salt. And it's super expensive because it's lizard fireproof thing, pepper. So I think the two of them just form this weird dynamic where it's like, that's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And they also pair with most foods. I'm not going to downplay it. You find anything?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the different types of pepper.
And I didn't get into that.
You have white, green, wild, orange, red, pink.
That's wild to me.
Yeah, it's crazy that this world is that diverse.
God bless this world.
Until we kill off all the other versions of it, and we're only left with black.
Well, so that's what salt does. It's super important. It affects our food. Did you know salt moves slowly in a cold object? So, like, if you had a steak and you wanted to season it with salt and pepper, or salt specifically, you rub it all over the surface. It could take a full day to reach the middle of the steak. So that's why you have to season it way ahead of cooking it. Once it starts cooking, it speeds up reaction speeds. Salt can permeate to the middle of a food within 10 minutes.
So I should buy my steak the day before, salt it, and leave it in the fridge.
Yes, sir. Now you're figuring it out. There's another process called brining, which is like a saltwater solution.
We do that to roasts. We have a whole chicken roast.
Yes. There you go.
Let it permeate.
It could take a whole day if it's cold, right? But you do it, and it permeates.
Delicious.
It gets in there.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. It also actually physically changes the nature of the food. Apparently, it relaxes the muscle fibers a little bit, so that they're a little looser. It's less tough.
Huh.
And then when they're cooked, like we said, it doesn't evaporate all the moisture. Some of the moisture is sticking around. It's
remains
like,
juicy and already has salt in it, which makes your taste buds enjoy it even more.
And it's more tender, and smells are coming off it. So
all the good smells.
Well, they might be bad, but we think it's good because it reminds us of the food. Right?
True.
What the hell is a good smell and a bad smell? Honestly, it probably has more to do with taste. I never thought of that. Our sense of smell is more tied to taste than our sense of taste is tied to smell.
It's like a retrospect. Yeah.
Right.
Like you've eaten something that you like.
It smells like throw up. Would you be like, throw up? I love that smell. It's always, you like smells that taste like food, right? And you don't like smells that taste like the opposite of food. Just something to think of.
Yeah.
Weird. Well, let's wrap it up here.
Sure.
Salt's important. We like you. We like you a lot. Good night, folks. Bye. What? Can you click? Did you hit it? No? Did you cancel?
I did not.
Freaking folks.
I have my hands are right here. Yeah. Salt? What? Salt of the earth? Celery? What other forms of salt? You had Lot's wife.
Celery.
Pillar salt.
Lot's wife.
Lot's wife. That was her name. They didn't name her.
We need 6 grams of table salt a day to maintain our bodily processes.
Yeah.
Processes.
Osmosis.
Ooh. What is the plural of pepper?
Pepper.
Damn, you got it. Tried to get him. Tried to get Dan. It didn't work, folks.
Unless you have individual pepper kernels, then you'd be like...
Peppers. You can say peppers.
I can say peppers. Actual.
I know you.
And then we got what? Taste buds, salting, preservation, brining.
The other thing to think of is there's a scene where Angelina Jolie jumps in the cop car and she's driving a steering wheel and just steering around all these cops going backwards. That cop car didn't actually have that steering wheel, so it's a little bit of a faux pas. It's kind of a movie goof. Something to keep in mind. It doesn't let us ruin the movie experience because it's a 6 point
4.
4 out of 10.
And also
Yeah,
8 years old. 9
But you might
if
wanna
you're
check it
listening in the future. Electrolytes, osmosis,
Yeah.
briquetage.
Electrolysis. Hell yeah.
Yeah. What was that guy's name?
Oh, Sir Humphrey Davy? That's my man.
Yeah. Hey man, we can break these things down. Everyone's like, that's worthless. We're not going to spin off in 94% other industries from this thing. Salt. It tastes just good. Who needs anything more? I think that covers pretty much all of it. PVC. Yeah, thyroid. Muscle fibers.
Salt and pepper.
Water balance.
Salt and pepper's here. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know if it won any other Oscars, but Salt, great movie. Folks, I can't believe you stuck with us for Salt. It's like 9 hours of Salt.
Yeah, Dead Sea.
We like you. We like you a lot, actually.
We do.
Thanks for tuning in. Semen is salty.
How do you know that? I didn't stop it yet. How do you know that? It's a fact you read?
I just know it is. It's literature. Okay, folks?
Nature versus nurture. It just inherently, everyone knows that, right?
Everyone knows that. Moving on. Thank you for joining in, listening, and being a part of us. If you donated more than $100, you'll get the behind the scenes footage from this episode, which is crazy.
Yeah. Drink your pineapple juice.